section 10.3, which is about circles and equations of circles and graphs of circles. So what is a circle? It's a set of all points x and y that are equidistant from a fixed point called the center. So you got one point in the center, and every point that's the exact same distance from that point will create a circle. So the radius is the distance r between the center and any point on the circle. So going from the center of the circle to a point on the circle, it's going to give us a radius r. So we got two basic forms of the equation of a circle. Standard form when our center is at 0, 0, or the origin is x squared plus y squared equals r squared, and r squared of course would represent the radius squared. Or if the center is not at 0, 0 at some other point, then we use the format of center being at hk, so we have the equation x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So notice that it's minus h and minus k, so that means that outside of the equation, the h and k that are going to represent our center are going to be the opposite signs of what they are in the equation. So fairly simple to start out. We got x squared plus y squared equals 81. They're asking us to identify the center and radius of each circle. So the center of this circle, since there is no h or k, it's just x squared plus y squared, we know the center is going to be at the point 0, 0. And then 81 represents the r squared, or our radius squared. So to find the radius, we set r squared equal to 81, and to solve for r, to get rid of the square, we take the square root of both sides, and so we end up with r equals the square root of 81, which hopefully we all know is 9. So center at 0, 0, radius of 9. Alright, so B, same kind of format. We got x squared plus y squared equals 24. So once again, there's no h and k value, nothing combined with x and y. So our center is going to be at 0, 0. And then 24 is going to be our radius squared, so r squared equals 24. Take the square root of both sides, and we're going to end up with the radius is equal to the square root of 24, which, if you can, we always want to simplify underneath the radical. So 24 is the same thing as 4 times 6, and 4 has a square root, which would be 2. So we can rewrite that as r equals 2. Square root of what's left behind is 6. Alright, next one, x minus 3 squared plus y plus 9 squared equals 16. So here we've got numbers, we got a 3 subtracted from x and a 9 added to y, and so that puts in there that we've got an h and a k. We're not at the center of 0, 0 anymore. So minus 3, so remember that h and k are the opposite value of what they are in the equation, so that's going to come out as a positive 3. And then y plus 9, so that 9 is going to change signs to negative 9. So once we figure that out, our center is going to be the point hk, or 3, negative 9. And our radius squared, just like in the other equations, set r squared equal to 16. Take the square root of both sides, so our radius is going to be equal to 4. Right, so then D, we got x plus 5 squared plus y minus 4 squared equals 49. So identify our h and k to begin with. We're adding 5 to x, so it should be the opposite sign, so minus 5 or negative 5. And then subtracting 4, so the opposite sign of that's going to be a positive 4. So that tells us the center of our circle is going to be at the point negative 5, 4. And then for our radius, r squared is going to equal 49. Take the square root of both sides. and we get r equals 7. E, we got x minus 2 squared plus y squared equals 11. So in this case, we got something combined with the x, but not with the y. But since we do have something with the x, we've got to go to the HK model. So h is going to be positive 2, the opposite of negative 2 in there. And then k, we don't have anything added with the y. So the one thing we can add to y and not change anything is 0. So our center is going to be the point 2, 0. And r squared in this case is going to equal 11. So we take the square root of both sides. 11 is a prime number, so it doesn't have a square root, and it doesn't have any factors that would have a square root. So we just end up with r equals the square root of 11. Alright, so then f is a little different animal here. We don't have any parentheses, and we got a lot of extra stuff added in there. So what we're going to do first is move everything except for that negative 36 to the other side. So I'm going to add x squared. I'm going to add the y squared. And I'm going to subtract 14y. All to the other side, so those will all cancel on the right side. That's going to give me x squared minus 4x plus y squared minus 14y equals negative 36. Now, in order for these equations to work, we have to have these squared binomials, like x plus 5 squared or y minus 4 squared. And so in order to get that with what we've got to go through a process called completing the square, which we did earlier in the year. So hopefully you remember a little bit about that. So I want to start with the x squared minus 4x. And in order to complete the square, I take this term right here, the negative 4, which would be my b, and we do b over 2 squared. So if I take negative 4 out, put it over 2, and square it, it's going to leave me with negative 2 squared. And if I square negative 2, that's going to give me positive 4. So that gives me x squared minus 4x plus 4. And if you remember, you can get that to a perfect square binomial, or square of a binomial, by taking the x squared and combining it with what's in the parentheses down here, the b over 2 part. So that's going to factor down to x minus 2 squared. All right, so then we're going to do the same thing with the y portion we had there. Y squared minus 14y. And so start with b over 2, which in this case is going to be negative 14 over 2, and that's got to be squared. Negative 14 over 2 squared. Divide negative 14 by 2, we get negative 7 squared. And if I square negative 7, I get 49. So that's y squared minus 14y plus 49. And if I factor that, that's going to be y squared minus 7. Right? Using that negative 7 from right there where we simplified b over 2. So now when I write this equation, one thing I've got to do is I'm adding 4 here to this part of the equation. I'm adding 49 to this part of the equation. So that's all going on into the left side. So I've got to add that same set of values to the right side. So I'm going to add 4 and 49 to the right side. And so now I'm going to rewrite this as x minus 2 squared plus y minus 7 squared is going to equal negative 36 plus 4 would be negative 32, and negative 32 plus 49 is going to be 17. So now all of that work, and now we've just gotten this equation to standard form, but we're still looking to give the center and radius of the circle. So from our equation here, we get our h and k. H is going to be positive 2, k is going to be positive 7. So our center is going to be the point 27. And then our radius, or r squared, is going to equal to 17. Take the square root of both sides. 17 is a prime number. It's not going to get any simpler, so our radius is just the square root of 17. So center of 27, radius of 17, or square root of 17. All right, so then this next one, same basic idea, except for we don't have to move everything over to the other side. One thing we need to move is the 49. Move it over to the other side, and I want to group my x's and y's together. So x squared plus 18x plus y squared plus 10y is going to equal negative 49. Now I'm going to go through the same process I just went through with the other one. So I've got x squared plus 18x. So I need to do b over 2 squared. My b in this case is the 18, so 18 over 2, and I square it. So 18 divided by 2 is 9 squared, which is going to give me 81. And then do the same process with my y's. So I've got y squared plus 10y, and my b is going to be 10, so b over 2 squared is going to end up being 10 over 2 squared, which is going to be 5 squared, which comes out to be 25. So plus 25. And so we're adding 25 to each one of those equations. So I've got to add 25 and 81 to the right side of the original equation. Now these are going to factor down to x squared plus 18x plus 81 is going to go to x squared plus b over 2, so plus 9, and the y squared plus 10y plus 25 is going to become y plus 5 squared. Both of those are squared. So my equation is going to be x plus 9 squared plus y plus 5 squared equals, and what I get when I add negative 49 plus 25 would be negative 24, and negative 24 plus 81 would be 57. So I got x plus 9 squared plus y plus 5 squared equals 57. So identify h and k. H is going to be negative 9, k is going to be negative 5. And so the center is going to be the point negative 9, 5. And r squared equals 57, so take the square root of both sides. And 57 is not going to reduce any, so it's just going to leave us with r equals the square root of 57. So that finishes this page. I'm moving over to the next page. Now we're actually graphing these equations. So in order to graph them, we need to know the center and the radius, just like what we just did. So the center of this first one, x squared plus y squared equals 81. There is no h and k added in with the x and y, so that's going to be 0, 0. And r squared equals 81. So I take the square root of that. That's going to give me r equals 9. So I've got a center at 0, 0 at the origin, and then a radius of 9. So that circle is going to go out 9 in all directions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. And 9. And then I'm going to cheat here just a little bit. I'm going to use a compass to draw in my circle. Point at the center. Move it out to 9 wide. And we'll see how exact my graph is here. Guess my increments on the bottom were not quite as nice and neat as the increments on the top and left and right. But so that'll be our circle. All right. Of course, you could freehand it if you wanted to. Comes a lot harder and in most cases a lot uglier. Right? So freehanded, I might look like that. Which that's why I used my compass, because very pretty. All right, so now moving on to the next one. X minus 3 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 16. So we do have an h and a k on this one. H is going to be positive 3, k is going to be negative 3. So we've got a center at the point 3, negative 3. So 1, 2, 3, and down 3. Like so. And then we've got r squared is going to equal 16. Take the square root of both sides, and our radius is going to be 4. So now that means that in each direction from that point, I'm going to go 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Something like that. This is probably going to be a little farther off than the last one. Once again, I got them all but one. Right? So there's what my graph would look like for that one. And then lastly, we got x minus 2 squared plus y squared equals 4. So our h value is going to be positive 2. Okay, there's nothing added or subtracted from the y, so that's going to be 0. So our center is going to be at the point 2, 0. And then from there, we get our radius, or r squared, is equal to 4. So take the square root of both sides. Our radius equals 2. So I'm starting at point 2, 0. And going 2 in each direction. This is going to be a small circle. So if I freehand it, like something like that. So hopefully you got all that. If not, maybe you can watch this again. But that is the basics of graphing circles and finding the center and radius of a circle.